This is a WBZ special report. In the Lion's Mouth, the slavery crisis in Sudan.
Hello, I'm Liz Walker. When I was a little girl growing up in Arkansas, my grandmother's favorite saying was, when you have your head in the lion's mouth, you have to be careful how to get it out. That saying didn't come from the cotton fields of Arkansas. It had to originate all the way back before slavery to my ancestors in Africa. It is the only connection I have to that part of my history. Right now, half a world away, there's more African history at risk. And if ever there were people whose heads were in the lion's mouth, it's the Dinkas of southern Sudan. Sudan, bordered by Ethiopia, Uganda, Chad, and Egypt, is the largest country in Africa. With its fertile ground and vast oil reserves, Sudan is a land of potential, where peace is a fading memory. Tell me about life before the war.
This place was just a heaven. People were enjoying. Even in the past, we were exporting to the north grain and groundnuts and cattle.
Peter Ring from the Catholic diocese of Al-Abyad is a member of the Dinka tribe, the largest in Sudan. His people have been enslaved as part of a brutal jihad, a holy war declared by the fundamentalist Islamic regime in Sudan's north against the mainly Christian Dinkas in the south. It's a bitter conflict that's taken a heavy toll.
Especially the young generation, they think they have been born in war, and many of them are also growing old and losing their life in war.
I joined Boston ministers Ray and Gloria Hammond, Gerald Bell, and Harvard student activist Jay Williams on a trip to southern Sudan that would take us 21 hours and 9,000 miles around the world. And during the week that America celebrates its independence, we were on an emotional journey.
My first impressions of being here was one of joy and great honor and opportunity to be in a land of my ancestors.
And I was especially struck by the children and the number of children and their openness and their authenticity in welcoming us into this place.
Clearly, I think we're here to educate ourselves, to hear from the people, to learn from them, to some extent to better understand and verify many of the things that we've heard and been told.
We were invited to Sudan by John Eibner, head of Zurich-based Christian Solidarity, an organization committed to religious freedom.
This isn't simply a Christian issue. It's a question of humanity, and anybody who has a sense of humanity really has an obligation and responsibility to stand in solidarity with the victims.
This was a journey of many firsts. The first time most of us set foot on rugged Sudanese soil, living in tents, rationing our own water. It was the first time that I shot a story with my own camera. And it was the first time we witnessed the insidious backwash of war. Former slaves now headed for redemption.
I certainly wonder what must be going through their minds. Shiva, as they anticipate the possibility of freedom. And for especially for the children, Shiva, who perhaps have never known freedom. Shiva.
These slaves, according to the State Department and the United Nations, are taken in raids by the Muherlin, government soldiers, as part of combat pay. They're forced to work in Arab households, and many are brutalized and tortured during their enslavement.
We're convinced on the basis of all the evidence at our disposal that there are well over 100,000 women and children in bondage, and they have been neglected for 18 years, and it has really only been CSI who has come in to try to address the question of saving people who are victims of crimes against humanity according to international law.
Sudan's Muslim Khartoum government categorically denies a slave trade, and Boston's Muslim leaders have told me the people we saw are prisoners of war. Observing this site firsthand, Reverends Ray and Gloria Hammond have their own thoughts.
And what it must mean to them to have us present of African descent who comes from so far, is willing to go beyond observing the pain from a distance, Shiva, to be present, to on some level make a difference.
And to imagine that somewhere hundreds of years ago, my great-great-grandmother, great-great-grandfather was in a line like this, on their way to a slave market. So it's on the 4th of July, both a wonderful and a very poignant place to be.